Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
On his way. All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. We'll do what we can in the meantime. Any public comment? We're going to be hearing from someone in person down at the fire station, but that hasn't happened yet. Minutes of the August 31st, 2020 meeting. I'll entertain a motion to accept them.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Oh, hi, Amy.
Can you see me? It looks like
No.
it looks like it's dark. Isn't that weird?
No,
picture there.
I can hear you, Amy, but we can't see you. Or I
See if I
can't.
can adjust the lights. It looks like my video's on, but I don't know what's going on.
Oh, okay. We know you're there then. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Okay. Warrants and bills, you have the list. I added some more today.
Okay.
Any questions?
No.
I had that one question about Boundtree, Alex, whether that had been paid already. Anybody? Any questions?
Did you get a response on the question to Alex?
No. Oh, his microphone is off. What is he doing? He's not there, right? Oh, there. Did you get my question, Alex?
Alex, we can't hear you.
Unmute yourself.
No, I was just making sure the auditor guy was coming, but he's not coming till 7:15.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I had a question on the warrant with the invoices. One of the bills might have been already paid, but the Boundtree bill, 261.81. But you can let us know, or you can just if it's been paid, fine. Don't
The
worry.
which bill?
Boundtree. It's just the
I haven't paid one of those in quite some time.
Oh, okay.
Those are usually the fast squad bills.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I
so-
haven't seen one of those in quite some time.
because they bought the stuff a long time ago, but I guess I just got the bill. Okay,
So I'll make a motion that we approve the warrants as distributed, totaling $55,434.72.
okay. All in favor, say aye. Oh, I
Aye.
guess I need a second.
Oh,
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay. Let's see what else we can take care of before we talk about the sewer fee. Single audit report, draft report. What do we have to do with that, Alex? Do we have to give it to somebody, or does he send
I
it?
have not seen that.
It.
Did you distribute that?
I thought I did. Maybe you just.
Maybe I did.
I thought so, but it's
When did you send it out?
Josh is going to present it tonight.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we're
So
gonna.
the things that we have to do from that report. So the two findings that he'll go over are, one, we had a mix up with two of the MPBRs that Ben has already fixed. So check, that's done. But we have to issue like a corrective action like plan that goes in the audit. And that plan consists of we resubmitted the correct invoice and fixed the problem. Done.
Okay.
That's fine. The second thing is that they identified that our village does not have a procurement policy written down, and we need to come up with one. So I took some language that they provided and sort of crafted it to our village. And we could look at that tonight, maybe after Josh does his presentation. And I guess, we should approve that at some point if it seems okay, so that we can have a policy in place and hence satisfy the requirements of the audit. Once we sort of sign off on that, I guess I'm the signature on there to say like, okay, this audit looks good. And then we submit it to this federal clearinghouse. That's the place where all the audits live. and the state of Vermont can access it there, and USDA can access it there, and everybody will hopefully be happy.
We don't have to send it directly to USDA and.
I think you just upload it to this clearinghouse website, and then everybody can get at it.
Okay.
And Alex, is there a timing involved in all this? When it has to happen?
Yeah, it's supposed to be done by the end of September, I believe.
So who did you send the draft audit and the procurement draft to? Just to me?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I think I certainly got a copy of the procurement. And it seems to me I also looked at comments from the auditor, but maybe
I sent it to.
We got the report from the auditor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sent it to everybody on Tuesday, September 1st at 9:15 p.m.
Okay.
So it went to all of your email addresses.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
So Carl has joined us, and Josh.
I had.
Hello.
Hello.
So we've done the first 4 items, Carl,
Okay.
and
And Josh is here. So
Josh
hey, Josh.
is here.
Hello. How are you?
Okay, this is number 6, the single audit. Hi, Josh.
Hello.
Where are you? I don't see you. Oh, there you are. Okay, where do we go? You're going to give us a report?
I'm going to give you a little summary. Yes. How about we start with
Okay.
that? Then we can go through any questions you guys have. You all have the draft financial statements. Is that correct?
Well, we saw it, yes.
You saw it. Okay.
We don't have it.
We were just discussing it, and I was.
For the benefit of the secretary, would you tell who you represent?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Josh Quinn. I'm the audit manager for RHR Smith and Company.
Okay.
So I will basically just run down. You guys don't sound like you're looking at my audit report, so I will just give you a brief overview, and then we can kind of ask some questions. I can go over our management letter, talk about suggestions that we have, and then kind of the next steps from here. So in general, our financial statements, what prompted you guys to require an audit is the federal grant you received, and that was over $750,000 that you expended this past, well, actually this was at FY19, and so that required that we do a full yellow book audit is what they call it. That really has two components to it. The first one is just a general financial statement audit, and that's the first probably 90% of the document that we sent you. And then the last 10% is the single audit, or the federal compliance audit that it's also known as. And so the two different pieces are, you have your financial statement audit, which is really your operations for your general fund and all of your enterprise funds, your special revenue funds. And then your federal compliance audit really is compliance with the federal grant that you received from the USDA. So two kind of separate pieces, but they're all wrapped up into one yellow book audit is what it's called in my exciting accounting world. As far as so we then have two opinions. The first opinion is on your general financial statements, and we have an opinion on whether or not it is our opinion is either modified or unmodified. It could also be qualified, and that has to do with whether or not we believe your financial statements have any material misstatements. For your general financial statements, we had an unmodified opinion, which is a good thing. And as part of the financial statements preparation, as part of our audit, we also do a bunch of internal controls review. So what do your process and procedures look like? Who signs off on POs, all that, or anyone signs off on invoices? Who opens the mail, like all kinds of little details that Alex and I have had lots of discussions about. And actually, Ben and I have had some discussions via email about it as well. And so that's how we sort of come to form this opinion. And with that opinion comes the management letter. And the management letter are some pieces and parts that we might recommend to just strengthen some of your procedures, maybe some best management practices, stuff of that sort. The second piece is then your single audit, so your federal compliance audit. We did have findings in the federal compliance audit. I'll go over those two. They weren't major. Well, after our first conversation, I knew I was going to have one, which had to do with your not having a federal procurement policy, which is part of your grant, basically requires that you have a written procurement policy that says you will follow federal guidelines. And there's a whole process and procedure. And then the other piece was there was a duplicate invoice. I think it was Penta's invoice number 13 was included twice instead of using Penta's invoice number 14. And that has already been rectified as well by a submission of your last invoice, I think back in August, I believe is when that was. So as part of the federal compliance piece, we need a corrective action plan, which Alex has been working on. I think probably has just about done. And those two pieces were to submit the correct invoice, which has been done, and then getting you guys to move forward with a federal procurement policy and adopting that. So those are kind of the pieces. The next steps then become, once you guys approve or accept, I guess I would call it, you're basically accepting the draft, then we'll issue you a draft, or I'm sorry, we'll issue you final financial statements with our various opinions on them. And then we submit that to what's called the Federal Audit Clearinghouse, and that's for the single audit. And so we submit that, and then I think Alex will have to jump on there and attest to that information that's been submitted. And then that will wrap up the process for FY19. For FY20, Alex and I have had some conversations because there are findings in the federal compliance audit. Often another audit is required to follow up on those findings. Because you guys probably aren't going to have another audit and don't need another audit and probably won't have $750,000 of expenditures next year in federal programs. I suggested to Alex that you talk to your rep at the USDA that you've been submitting those invoices to, and just talk to them about other ways you can satisfy that follow-up requirement that is required once you have federal findings. An audit is only one of those ways to follow up. There may be some other ways that you can do it without basically having to have a whole nother financial statement audit and kind of save you that cost of $7,000-8,000, whatever that total was for your audit this year. So that would be my suggestion there. I usually go through like our financial statements with, you know, and have people follow along with the pages, but since you guys don't have that, I think you'll all just be bored. So I will jump.
Even with it, it would be probably.
So I will jump into the management letter comments. So a couple things, and I've talked all these through with Alex. I'm not sure how much he's filled you guys in on these or not, but the first comment was about bank reconciliations. So we just encourage you guys to do bank reconciliations that tie to your general ledger. You know, I would probably also recommend, and we talked about this a little bit, it's not in my letter. The state is currently procuring a statewide software, I think that they're going to use and at least offer to all of their towns and villages and cities. And that might be worthwhile for you guys just because those softwares typically come with a bank reconciliation function that will allow you to basically at any time have a really good handle when you do a bank reconciliation. Okay, here's our cash. Here's how many outstanding checks we have. And just have a better handle on where your cash position is from month to month. The other piece is about financial policies and procedures, which we've already touched on. In addition to the federal pieces, I would just recommend you guys codify how you currently operate. You know, Alex isn't going to be your treasurer forever. Whenever there's that transition from treasurer, whenever anyone even leaves the board, you're going to lose a decent amount of knowledge that those people have. So it's just a good idea to put that stuff down in writing. Therefore, everybody knows it. So when Alex moves on or there's a transition, there's no reinventing the wheel. Someone can have a piece of paper or a document that says, okay, this is how we process our financials. This is how we process our invoices. This is how we pay checks. This is what we do. And then the last piece was year-end reporting. This is just a comment about the way that you guys report your cash on hand in your annual reports. So your cash on hand doesn't include, it's basically, so you guys run your books on a cash basis. And the risk on running on a cash basis is you are not including any receivables that you have, so basically your delinquent taxes. You're also not including any payables that you might have, which could give you a misleading interpretation of how much cash you actually have on hand. So I would just be cautious about that. It might be worthwhile just to do a little bit of investigation on what it might take to convert, at least at the year-end time, to a modified accrual basis, which is what is recommended by the GASB, which is Government Accounting Standards Board. It's not really difficult, especially with a village the size of yours, but it'll give you a much better handle instead of just saying, okay, we have $32,000, for example, so we're going to put all that to our taxes for next year. You can definitely run into issues there where suddenly, you're making that, if you think about it, you had $32,000 as of June 30th, 2018, for example, and in March of 2019, you assigned that $32,000 to the next budget cycle. So you're really 2 years behind. And this is not you, this is every single municipality, school district in our state. And so we always recommend, just because you had $32,000 9 months ago doesn't mean you still have it. So that's one of the reasons that we recommend just making sure you have a good handle on what those figures are before you allocate them to the next year budget cycles.
So what is that kind of accounting called again?
Modified accrual accounting.
Thank you.
Yep. So that's pretty much it. Without going through all of my schedules in detail, 65 pages worth of numbers. Does anybody have any questions or anything I can clear up for them or next steps?
I wouldn't mind a little clarification on the first comment that you said about the bank reconciliation. Just to explain that in layman's terms, what that involves.
Yep. Yeah. So the bank reconciliation. So right now, so Alex goes through and just like everybody else, he verifies, okay, everything that hits the bank account, he understands what that is. So at the end of the month, your bank statement balance is going to say, let's just for an example, say it says it's $50,000 at the end of the month. And he goes through and he verifies all the deposits, all the transactions. Yep, those are all great. Yep. But you don't actually have $50,000 in your bank account. Well, you have $50,000 in your bank account, but you've also written $15,000 of checks, but you just wrote them on June 30th. And so by the time those checks clear, you actually don't have $50,000. You really have $35,000. And so basically it's tying that your bank balance, you're subtracting your outstanding checks, you're adding in any deposits you made at the end, and then that will tie over to your general ledger balance.
Okay.
So that's the idea of actually a bank reconciliation that ties to your GL. So it ties those two documents together so you know what that is.
I see.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And
yeah, I've basically been reconciling what's in Quicken and not paying attention to anything that's outstanding.
Right.
And so that's a problem.
Right. That's just a cash basis. So you've just been operating, and Alex walked into an operation that was just a cash basis, which is how that works. But there's just risk there, which is why it's recommended to do kind of move to that sort of modified accrual, which includes those outstanding checks, which are the real, it's never a terrible thing to have more money than you thought. It's all of a sudden you thought you had 50 and you only had 35.
Right. Right.
Great. I guess I'd just like to put Alex on the spot. You're our astute financial person. Do you have enough tools to go forward and follow up on Josh's recommendations?
Yes,
or help us make the decisions that we need.
Yeah, provided you guys can sort of review the procurement policy in good order. Like we're dealing with the end of September deadline, which I'd like to not get close to. And so that would be the main thing. And then the software piece is kind of not necessarily germane to the conversation tonight, but it is, I'm currently using a very outdated Quicken thing that is, when Josh asks for a certain report, I can't figure out how to make Quicken make it. And so I had to do some weirdness, and Josh had to be flexible with us, which was much appreciated. But, either going to QuickBooks or a state listed thing. And, you know, the other issue is like the outstanding, all the taxes that we haven't received yet, like, you know, they're in weird spreadsheets that I manually manage. Like we don't have, you know, each taxpayer should ideally be a client within our system. And then we can track things based on parcel IDs and that kind of thing. So hopefully with the new software, we could potentially do that better. And that would make my job easier. It would also make future any kind of auditing a heck of a lot easier.
Now, where is this? Is the software coming down the pike, or what is the software?
So I don't know what the software is yet. So right now, most of the municipalities in Vermont use a software called NEMRC, NEMRC.
Right.
And that's how they track all of their tax receipts. And that's what they use. A couple of them do use QuickBooks. And I think you guys, I think either Bellows Falls or Rockingham do your taxes or do your tax processing for you, right?
Rockingham.
Rockingham. So they use NEMRC
Mhm.
because we audit them as well. They use NEMRC, and that's where all of your actual tax data is kept, is there. I don't know what the new software is. I'm not sure if the procurement process is done yet. I heard about it last year at this time from one of my other clients who was on one of the committees that was helping the state try to pick a software. So I don't know what the status of that is.
Yeah, there's no like house on fire disaster here. It's just
Right.
like as soon as that's available, it would be lovely for us to figure out how to use it. And then that'll make things it'll make things better in the future.
Yeah, and even if that comes with a price that doesn't make any sense for you guys with the size of your budget, then you might want to look at QuickBooks, because even QuickBooks is a large step above Quicken. You can put in a budget. You can have just some more controls and some easier reporting for Alex to provide to you guys, so you guys can make good financial decisions.
Okay. Yes.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I hate the idea that we're tying your hands, Alex, by giving you old, outdated tools. I mean,
Yeah,
it's painful to learn the new stuff. Typically, it's really painful. But once you got a handle on it, your life is so much better.
Yeah, it just means I have a lot of like kludgy spreadsheets that Josh had to look at. So
Spreadsheets and stacks of folders, right? Of who hasn't paid and who has paid. And, you know, if you guys were larger, we would have not been as flexible, I'll call it.
yeah.
We're still in the Bob Cratchit era.
Right.
Ooh. Okay. Anything else for Josh?
Josh, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. You're very welcome.
Are you up in Maine now?
No, I live in Middlebury,
Oh, okay.
so I'm just right over the mountains.
Okay. Good.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. You guys take care.
Yep.
Thank you. Pleasure. Oh, one more thing. By the way, so as far as Alex, you mentioned the deadline for the September 30th. So I don't need and I don't know if you're going to approve it right now or not. I don't need that approved, like this meeting, for example. I just need you to put in that corrective action plan that the board is going to, or is reviewing, or is considering, creating this federal procurement policy.
Okay.
And then that's good enough. And then that's what you would then be the follow-up that you'd have with the USDA would probably be providing those minutes and here's the plan and yada, yada, yada.
Okay. Good. That's good. Takes the pressure off.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks.
Okay. Carl, is Connie there?
No, she's not.
Oh, okay.
Did we finish this while we're on that
Yeah. Is there more?
topic?
What else is there?
I'm ready to discuss the procurement
Policy?
procedure.
Okay.
And I'm so glad you got Josh Quinn to come to this meeting. That was great.
Yeah, he offered, and he's been a total pleasure to work with because I'm certainly not an accountant or an auditor. And so there was a lot of language there that I learned.
The one point of order, are we able to approve a policy that's not warned?
I don't know.
I mean, it seems
So
like it would be worth.
certainly
It seems like it'd be worth discussing and then potentially warning it for the next meeting. I mean, we can put it as Josh suggested, just in our corrective action plan is like, hey, we've reviewed a draft, we're working on it, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't have a copy in front of me, but you have a copy in front of you, Amy?
I do, yes. And I'm assuming we have one more meeting in the month.
We have to discuss that. I guess we
Okay.
could.
Okay.
I would, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to say I'm all for discussing that policy. I think we can probably direct Alex to go ahead and prepare the corrective action statement as Josh suggested, and then whether we get the approval done before the end of the month won't be critical.
Okay.
I agree.
Great. All right. Does someone have you have comments on the procurement policy, Amy?
I read through it. I looked at the Village of Bellows Falls, which is a little longer. To be honest, this is not my field of expertise whatsoever. I am relying on Josh's opinion and Alex's comments about working with him. And I got to say, it looks fine to me.
Did you it was a boilerplate thing, right, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I walked through it and edited it to make it applicable to us.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a great use of group time to read it right now, but
Right.
If we could all dig into it a little bit more, that would be good. But yeah, I pretty much just made it like the village, this is our this, just to make it sound like it was written by us.
Right.
Sorry, I also read through it and I did have a couple of questions about it.
Okay.
And they're kind of picky details because I used to have to proofread things. But you talk in here about the village at one point, and in some other spot you talk about non-government agency or government agency. Are they the same thing?
I have no idea, and I might have missed some thing to correct.
You have something in front of you, Carl? Can you give us an approximate page? I have to admit, I printed it out with page numbers because it's so hard to keep track of things.
I am trying to find it, and I can't now.
Would it be sensible for us to work from Alex's edited version?
Well, that's what we received.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought that Alex had further edits. I guess I misunderstood.
No. He downloaded a boilerplate, edited it, and sent it.
So,
Yeah. Carl, while you're looking for that, the one I didn't read through it. In general, I didn't have any objections to it, but the one thing I would like to look at in more detail is the language about for the different dollar amount policy commits us to, or if it commits us to anything in particular about number of bids or the process that we have to go through. I think being a small, the smaller village, that we want to leave ourselves some flexibility, around how we go about that process, because sometimes, doing, say a sealed bid where you're getting multiple quotes, steers you towards certain size of entity that's going to participate in that process, and you don't always get the best price, I think. So I think, I'd like us to leave us some flexibility about how we do it. But I haven't read through the details, so I don't know what it specifically says, but that's the area that I'd spend my time.
Yeah, and that's on page 4. And I would suggest that we take like 6 paragraphs of deep bidding stuff and reduce it to like things over $100,000 we're gonna bid on or something like that.
Right.
And
Yeah,
we don't need to talk about like micro purchases and small purchases and like I routinely pay bills that are all across that range.
So Alex, you think there's some opportunity to simplify that?
Oh, big time. I just didn't want to
Okay.
get too far into it without your guys' input.
Okay.
So the document that I compared it to is from the Legacy site. It's the Village of Bellows Falls policy procedure. And I thought it was more reasonable on things like if the number of bids does not reach the minimum, if we're forced to consider a sole source. It just seemed to me that there was more of that kind of language, Ben, that addresses what happens in a situation when you're really small and not that many people come out to bid.
Right. Right.
Yeah, or if, we're not going to bid on like the manhole replacement cover ×1. Like,
that was the other thought that I had, that 3,500 is awfully low for a minimum bid. And I'm sure that the current rate for Rockingham bids is higher than that. And we might want to replace that figure just so it's more realistic. I mean, I know the language around it is, or any, I've forgotten what it is, or any comparable standard, but it seems to me that we should take that red flag out of there.
Okay. So what if we put this on the agenda for our next meeting? But in the meantime, Alex, are you comfortable preparing that corrective action statement?
yeah, I already have. It's like,
Okay.
it's 2 sentences. Sentence 1 is, we've fixed the issue with the 2 MPBRs, period.
Yep.
And the second sentence is, the village is working on a procurement policy. And I'll say it was discussed at our 9/14 meeting and is warned on our 9/28 meeting. And
Perfect.
we'll be following up with the actual policy.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Alex?
Yep.
I found an example of that on page 2, item 2. In the middle of that paragraph, the non-federal entity awarding such a contract. You see what I mean? Or
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think if you, Carl, and others want to like turn on track changes and send them back to me with that, like we should just do that.
okay.
Because it needs more than just some wordsmithing. It needs some like strike these 3 sections from this. So I think that it would be, what I'd propose is that, the trustees read through this, carefully with red pens in hand or track changes on in Word, if that's your preferred method. And then, if you want to send them back to me, I can prepare sort of a presentation or a draft of it for the next meeting. And then we could actually go through and say like, strike that, add this, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But for my understanding, is that the non-federal entity, is that the village, or are we considering other entities besides us?
I'm sure it should just say the village.
Okay, I just was confused whether or not there were other entities in the equation.
I don't think so.
Carried. Okay, thank you. I'll keep that in mind when I go back through it.
So it'll be on the agenda of the next meeting, which,
So I think it would be good tonight to wrap up the audit and just, I assume that the village you guys should authorize me to submit our corrective action plan and finalize the audit.
do we need a motion?
Yeah.
Sure. Make a motion, somebody.
I move that we authorize Alex to submit the corrective action plan as described and to finalize the audit with RHR.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, great.
What about the follow-up with the USDA? Do we wait until we have completed accepting the procurement, or do we move forward on that now? That seems like an important piece.
I think it would be good for, either Ben or me, as kind of the person who's talked with Andrea the most, to get in touch with her about it. The reason we did the audit is because the state of Vermont asked us about it from a couple of years ago. USDA didn't even mention it, really. It's apparently in the contractual documents and stuff, but like they didn't remind us to do it. And then also one of the findings, the one about the different, invoice requests, like they didn't tell us that was wrong either. So it would be nice to kind of have a catch-up conversation with them and hopefully just, describe the whole thing, describe what we fixed. They allowed us to move forward with a monster grant without a procurement policy. And so like, that's a problem, but like, it's mostly our problem, but it's also kind of their problem.
Yeah, right.
And so it'd be good to just kind of review that with USDA and then make a plan for moving that forward, hopefully reaching a mutually agreeable, just like very simple follow-up path forward that doesn't involve another monster audit, which, I think we did well on that. Like he did a really nice job and he was efficient and he spent a lot of time on it. So it was not like a boondoggle, but it was like, I would prefer to not do that again next year.
All right, will you take it on, then you'll call Andrea, talk to Andrea about it?
Yeah, and Alex, I'm happy to do that with you. Amy, to your question, I think we probably should wait until we pass that procurement policy, because then it makes the conversation that much cleaner. That we've actually completed the correction plan as well. So it would require that much less follow-up on her part.
Right.
Yeah, we could like
USDA
wrap this up at the end of September and then early October have a call with Andrea and say, hey, this is what we did. Everything's in the federal clearinghouse. You can check it out. Here's our plan.
Right.
Go from there.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm leery about federal grants. I mean, we'd be stuck without them, but at the same time, I hate to be caught. It would be very uncomfortable to be caught in this situation 12 months from now, being told that we should have done an audit again. And having this path laid out so clearly, let's just make sure we follow up.
Like,
I like it.
Okay, are we ready to move on? I don't know do you want to talk about the sewer fee issues now or wait until Connie?
Are we talking about Connie's property at 5 Main Street?
Yeah, I don't know if she's planning to be at the fire station or not, but she's not there.
No sign of her so far.
So
Okay.
I think we can discuss it.
All right.
I'm okay discussing
Did
it.
you all see her email today?
Yes.
Okay.
I saw her email.
I did
So-
not realize she had a sink downstairs.
Yeah, so from my perspective, we've got a property that's connected, and the property is connected to the sewer system. So I don't know as it really matters, which individual rooms within the property are connected, any more than it matters on a residential house, how many rooms have connections. So I think the bigger question is how many, what's the usage of that building, and how many units do you consider that building to be? And there's no clean answer. I think we've got multiple commercial properties in the village where their usage from year to year changes. Sometimes they've got, additional tenants and they chop the space up. Sometimes it's, a reduced number of tenants or vacant and not being used at all. So I think the question is that the property we're talking about, as long as I can remember, it's been classified as a 2 commercial unit structure. So it was, being billed for 2 units or 1 unit and a vacant unit, or some combination of those. So, what we're finding out now is that there's, actually potentially 3 units,
No, that's not. No.
Oh, that was my interpretation, was it?
Well, I know what she's saying is, see, the sewer line comes out at the upper level. They have a shop down in the basement level. The sink does not go into the sewer system. It goes into a tank.
I thought she said it did in her email.
Our email says it does.
It says it goes into a tank. Now, if they just have a tank that they have pumped out that's buried in the back lot, then that water is not going into the sewer plant unless they have a pump that's pumping it in there. So maybe some clarification on that, but that's what I took it to be, that it goes into.
I see. So she's saying that the sink drains into a septic system. That's her words.
Okay.
The septic system being separate from the sewer.
Exactly.
I
Right.
see.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's down at the lower level, and the other is obviously the way she has portrayed it here. And there's no one in the space right now, and I'd be fine with making it a single unit, seeing as how none of it is being used at all.
It's also very small to have two units in there.
I have a
No, it's
question then.
good size. I used to go there with the chiropractor, and Sue Hernandez were there, so it's doable. But as she has stated here, that the plumbing has been removed from the salon area, so I call it one unit. This is me.
Carl?
Yeah, if we had an office building with 2 attorneys' offices in it, some say, and they shared a common bathroom with the 2 offices, would we consider that 2 units or 1? In other words, would we bill based on the number of businesses or based on the number of connections? Because I think that's really the issue here, isn't it?
Well, I'm not sure if that's the issue here, but in that case, that would be considered 2 businesses if it was two separate businesses.
Right.
And what I think when it comes to the commercial properties, what we have tended to do is taken what I've always viewed as sort of a pro-business approach. And when the commercial properties have got tenants, then we charge, based on the number of tenants that they've got. And when they have fewer tenants, we charge less. So, there's the Saxton building, I think, is a good example that's fluctuated. The Warner Center, that has fluctuated over the years, quite a bit. So it's when they've got more tenants and they've got more revenue coming in, then they get charged for additional businesses because that's what they've got.
Okay.
So I think there's some precedents to do that. When it's a mixed use and you've got a residence in there plus a business, we've tended to always charge for the residents and then for the businesses separately. So, Connie did mention, I think in her email, that she, might be able to get a residential tenant in the building. So I think if that were to happen, really, if the usage changed for her at all, we'd have to revisit it at that point.
Currently, it's a one unoccupied business.
Well, currently it's been charged as 2 unoccupied businesses. Right. Yeah.
But
so the request is to make a change to 1.
Right. Yeah. Which is the de facto use of it. Its de facto use is that it's 1 unoccupied business.
Yeah.
That's connected to the sewer line.
So I'll make a motion that we change it to 1.
1 unoccupied business?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And were there any other issues on the sewer fees or taxes?
Do we have the sense that Anne Guyon is satisfied at this point?
We haven't heard from her.
I sent her the minutes of the last trustees meeting that outlined Ben's explanation, and I haven't heard back. So I don't know. I would assume she won't be satisfied, and she'll contact whoever she found out regularly prepared. But I don't know. I haven't heard.
Okay, until we hear anything, we don't have anything to do. Town website and open meeting.
Just a second. I had one question for Ben.
Yeah.
You circulated an email from Jeff Seaton about payment plan for VA. Was that satisfactorily resolved? You'd mentioned that it might come up at the next meeting and it didn't. So I just wondered if there was anything there that we needed to follow up on.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Ready to move on? Town website and open meeting law. Amy, do you have anything to report?
Just some general confusion. So it's my understanding that everybody agrees we follow the open meeting law. Is that pretty much correct?
Yeah.
And Carl and I have talked informally about the difficulties of uploading documents to the website that we are currently contributing our minutes and agendas to. And that difficulty is that none of us has the agency to upload them. We give them at this point to the interim town manager, and depending on his workload, they get updated promptly or at some point beyond what we'd like to see. Is that pretty much the gist of it?
Well, we've sent him things to upload twice. Once we didn't get them to him until Friday when it turns out he doesn't work. And so they didn't go up until the following Monday. The second time we got them to him Thursday and they went up on Thursday. I don't know if we can say that he's not prompt. I think we just need to be cognizant of his schedule and get it to him during his working hours.
And was that the chief objection to using that website as our official website? I'm just trying, I think I had to duck out of a meeting when this came up, and I apologize, but it wasn't clear to me from the minutes exactly what the objections were. So I'm trying to wrap my head around this.
Well, I'm not sure that in order to comply with the open meeting law, we have to have an official website or publish our minutes on the web. I think we are in compliance with the open meeting law the way we currently do it. Am I correct?
Well, as you said, they have to be available. And I find that very challenging given that we have no obvious seat of government in Saxons River. And I don't consider a call to Louise or to Carl or to Ben or to Matt or to me a way to make those minutes available. I mean, I think the situation is quite different from a standard town hall when you know, if you knock on the town hall door, the minutes will be available. The fact that we are individuals without an official place to hold minutes makes me nervous. So that's where my discomfort comes from.
Well, I think, and others can correct me if I'm wrong, part of the objection to using the town website as our official one was that we did not have control over the posting of the minutes, the timing that we were dependent on somebody else to put them up for us. So that if we made that our official website and then something happened that the town couldn't process them as quickly as the statutes required, then we would possibly be in difficulty. I think a second concern is that we don't know how much it's going to cost us in the future to do this. We have not got any sort of a financial agreement with the town. We've just sent them because they like to put them up and they're putting them up. But there may be some feeling that if we are using this as an official website, we should perhaps be footing some of the bill. And I think that we would want to make sure what the costs were going to be before we did that. And I would hate to have us declare it an official website, be locked into using it, and then say, oh, well, that's fine, but it'll cost you $2,000 a year for maintenance of the site. That's a pretty big chunk of our budget. So I think those were the two main objections. Am I right?
Yes.
I think
And
so.
also because if you call an official website, there you have certain obligations for maintaining it. In the old days, before computers, they must have just, I don't know what they did, where they posted the minutes like on a bulletin board somewhere, or you just went to the town clerk, you knew the clerk, who the clerk was, and asked for a copy. So that's something to consider too. Do you want to post them on the bulletin board by the fire station?
No, I want to post them on the town website. I'd
Some
like to
people
work
don't
on, excuse
Computers.
me, Louise?
Some people don't have computers, so
Yeah, let me finish.
Yeah.
I live in a literary neighborhood. You guys know that. I mean, it's all retired teachers and librarians. Carl can attest. And people want to see the minutes. They don't want to ask me for them. They don't want to get on the email list. They want to Google them and see them. I think that you've brought up the idea of having a page on that website with our names on it. I think that's equally a good idea. I feel like we're operating as if we were living in 1972, and we're not. So,
Amy, I
it
believe,
seems-
Let me bring up, oh, go ahead, Ben.
I was just going to say, Amy, I don't think you were at the meeting when we voted on this, but we did vote to submit the minutes to the town of Rockingham for them to post on their website to accomplish, get the bulk of, if not all of the benefit that you're seeking. The objection came with wording that established that as our official website, because it's not our website. It's the town of Rockingham's website and the village of Bellows Falls website. They both split the cost of that website. They pay for the staff to maintain that website. The village of Saxtons River does not contribute to that. And so that what Carl stated about the objections was pretty much right on, where we really couldn't, in my opinion, have that be our official site because we don't control that. And as a small village with a small budget, I don't really want to obligate us to that if we don't have to. So where we're meeting our obligation as for the open meeting law without having that, and we've got this great opportunity to have the information posted there, let's do it.
You're right, and I'm sorry for belaboring this. I just make one last suggestion, and that is that we make every effort to submit things a full week before they need to be seen. So I don't think we should wait for corrections to be made to the minutes by individual board members. I think we should put the agenda up a week ahead. Granted, it may not be posted, but that would be my thought, that we try, accepting the limitations that you pointed out are reasonable for such a small village, that we nevertheless make every effort to get things up in a timely manner.
Okay,
And I'm sorry to be so dense about understanding the implications of a discussion that I missed.
I think that there's not a problem with getting the agenda minutes to the village, to Chuck in a timely manner to get them up. So that they're there 72 hours or 48 hours before the meeting. Getting the minutes up in a timely manner is a little bit more of an issue. I am very, very hesitant to put a draft of the minutes that hasn't gotten feedback back from the trustees on what was said and have that go out as a record. An example of this is just the last set of minutes where Ben had some excellent comments and corrections to make on the draft. Read the bed and breakfast issue and why that did not qualify for the same objection. What I would have put out there would not have been as clear, might have created a misunderstanding. I think it was much better to have waited for that correction. And about, I don't know, I haven't been keeping track, but it's not infrequent that I'll get feedback from one of the trustees saying, this needs to be changed. And I think we should at least get the corrections of the trustees. Yeah.
So I could go either way on that. I think if it's clearly labeled as a draft, then those corrections can come out in the approved minutes, and I wouldn't have a problem with the draft being posted. Carl, you're absolutely right that if somebody read that draft, they're not going to pay attention to the fact that it's a draft and that it might be changed subsequently. They're going to read what they read and interpret that. But that's democracy, and that's the open meeting law policy, is that you're going to have that messiness. So I don't have a problem with that. I think we just need to be prepared to point out to people that what you read was in draft minutes and was the clerk's interpretation, but it was subsequently corrected, and we stand corrected. So I could go either way. If it doesn't take very long to get the feedback, then but that's my comment.
Well, I have a communication from Chuck about this, which says it's perfectly fine. We often put up the draft minutes, but we do not post the revisions.
Right. That would be my issue with the whole thing is
if we put the draft,
they're not gonna do it twice. I mean, it's enough to, so why not just take a little extra time and get it right the first time? Because if we put a draft up and something is off and then we correct it and send it to them again, they're probably not going to post it. And then that mean every time people are seeing drafts and not the actual.
Let me go through the process of what I do, which I inherited from Celia. So I make up my version of the minutes and I send it to the rest of the board for corrections. And that's like first draft. And then any corrections that I get from you, I make, and then I send it out to the email list, also as a draft, but it's a little bit different draft, or it could be. So there's like a first draft and a second draft. That goes out Friday night, Saturday morning, the 5 days. We could send that draft as a draft to be posted because there's very rarely a comment from people reading the minutes. That's happened once in the time that I've been taking them. So the comments generally tend to come from those of us who are here. Mm-hmm. And if we wanted to put a draft up, that would be a compromise to put up the draft with the comments from the board.
That sounds good to me. And then if there are questions, they should be addressed in the next meeting. So you just have to make a point of saying, well, make sure you look at the approved minutes at the next meeting. Were there additional comments made to clarify issues that came up, i.e. email?
And that doesn't happen very often, but it does. I would point out that Chuck said that minutes get posted within 10 days. So they're not making an attempt to meet that 5-day window. So I don't think we gain anything by sending out the really rough draft.
Did I hear somebody say, Carl, that the town was not going to post the approved minutes if they've already posted draft minutes?
What I have in an email from Chuck is that the draft minutes get posted within 10 days as a draft, and the draft is not replaced with the final copy unless there is a substantive change.
I see.
And
Okay.
that generally, he said that generally doesn't happen unless there's been a change of clerks.
I see.
What's the requirement for us to get the minutes
The
out?
requirement is that we make them available within 5 days.
5 days from the meeting, and it's not business days, it's 5 actual days. So Carl's right on the money. If he has them out on Friday, we've met that.
All right.
If I have them out on Saturday, we've met that, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday's 5 days. But if
But that's with revisions, right?
that's with revisions from this group,
Yes,
but
right.
not with revisions from anybody else who may have.
I think that as long as, at least a couple of us can look at it and revise it, then send it out. I don't know.
Does that mean there will be no record of the final minutes?
Yeah, no, the ones he's sending out are going to be the final minutes.
No, he's
Unless
sending.
There won't. There might be revisions at the next board meeting. Somebody may come up with a comment that needs to get incorporated. That's happened a time or two.
Okay, what's the difference between unapproved minutes and draft minutes? The ones that we approve at the meeting are approved minutes. That's the final ones.
Yeah, once we approve them, the draft becomes the official minutes. And well, typically we just approve the minutes that I've sent out.
Isn't it more important to have the approved minutes on the website?
So I'm going to make things more confusing by quoting the message, Carl, that you received from Chuck, which doesn't actually, my interpretation, so I'm just going to read it. This is Chuck to Carl. We post the draft minutes within 10 days. Those minutes are typically left online, even when a final copy is adopted. There are times when corrections during a meeting are substantive enough that we update those minutes, but that seldom happens unless we are switching to a new minute taker. So I guess your interpretation probably is right. They don't bother to post the corrected minutes unless it's a new minute taker.
Unless there's a change. I mean, unless there's a substantive change.
Well, I think that, and I think the question about what's a substantive change, I don't know in whose judgment that is. What makes it substantive?
Well, I would say when we approve the minutes like we did tonight with no changes, there's no substantive change. If we didn't approve them and we had to modify them, then you'd want to resubmit those to the town and ask him to post those because they'd been substantively changed.
Although you always do have, and we know Carl takes scrupulous minutes, you do have the discussion of the minutes and the vote to approve. So, there are minutes that are up there, unapproved minutes, the way we're talking about it, the minutes after we've corrected them, and then Carl has sent them out to that list of Saxtons River interested parties. And then during the meeting, if there are any other corrections, so let's say, Connie comes back to us and says, no, you completely misunderstood me, then we might reflect that, when we discuss the approval of the minutes. Maybe we would go in and say, we understand that there were issues. I don't know what, I'm not coming up with a good example on the spur of the moment, but that would be recorded when we discussed the draft of the minutes and approved it at the following meeting. So that's an easy way to double check on the draft of the minutes. You just look at the following meeting and see if there was any discussion of those minutes that were circulated as draft before they were approved.
And I think this is a good example, actually, I'm sorry, Carl, but I think this is a good example of why we don't want that that town website to be the official repository, because we're not controlling whether they update with the approved version or not. So there's going to be some that are up there that are going to say draft, and there's going to be some that are up there that say approved. Most of them are going to say draft. But the official distribution comes through that email list, and everybody on that list gets a copy of the approved minutes.
They don't get the approved, they get the draft.
They also get the approved, Amy. So tonight I will make up a new version of those minutes, which has the watermark taken out, which says approved this date, and that will go out to everybody on the meeting list. So you get two versions of the minutes. If you're on that list, you get the draft within 5 days, and you get the approved minutes after the following meeting when they've been approved. And I will, happily send those approved minutes on to the town, but they probably won't go up.
I think
you satisfied me that the most important thing happens, which is that they get the draft minutes to be posted long before the next meeting takes place.
Well, we can do that. I have not done that yet. I have only sent them the approved version because I have reservations about putting out a draft. I think we should only send them the approved minutes, but we could, send out the draft version that is what reflects all the changes that we have, and they'll get it in a timely manner. It'll be up there before the next meeting.
That would have my vote.
So why were we? So we're back to just sending out the first draft.
No,
not the first draft.
All right.
So the first draft is what I'll send you tomorrow, probably.
Okay. All right.
And then if you tell me anything to change by Friday night, Saturday morning, it'll be changed, and that'll be the second draft. And that's what goes out to the people on the email list. And that's what I can send to the town if we don't want to wait for the approved version.
Louise, you're awfully quiet.
I know, I'm listening.
Not like you, Louise.
I've been known. Okay, I think we're ready to move on to something else.
Well, I'd like a decision after all this discussion.
Well, I think we've been whatever Carl's doing.
I would like to make a motion.
Yeah.
Unless you stand over me, Carl. I would like to make a motion that when Carl submits the draft set of minutes to the interested residents of Saxtons River, that at that point in the process, he also submit those draft minutes to the website, to the Town of Rockingham website.
I'll second that.
Oh, who seconded that? Ben?
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed?
Opposed.
You're opposed?
Aye.
I'm opposed.
I prefer to send the final minutes too.
Wait, what was the vote?
What did you vote, Matt?
Aye.
Okay.
I voted aye and Ben voted aye.
Okay, 3-2. Okay.
Okay, so it passes. It's approved.
Yes.
That's
And
what we'll do.
I'll be interested, please, if anybody hears negative feedback on this in the next 3 to 5 months. I'm certainly very happy to revisit the issue.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Committee reports. Matt, I hear you met with Rob about the building at the wastewater plant.
Yes, that is correct.
The garage.
I met with him to go over what he was looking for down there and coming up with a list of what that would involve as far as the construction and what's involved in it. We are he was going to contact an electrician to get a price on the electrical part of it, and I haven't heard back yet. So it's just a wood structure, roofing, and everything to match the building that's there. One overhead door, one entrance door, and for now insulated, and the walls covered up with something, plywood or the same RFP that's inside the sewer plant.
Well, Matt, why the insulation is not going to be a heated structure, is it?
That's up to the trustees to decide. I was just talking to Rob about it. It's like, well, what do we do? No, we don't need to.
Yeah.
But just things that could be stored in there, it would be certainly good to know that as far as the cost is considered.
It might be good to have some insulation if he ever has to work in there on a smoke hole or something.
Right.
It's
So
a storage structure, though.
Yeah, it is, and we can go that route just to see where that falls as far as cost wise, and then you could decide, to do the rest of it if that, looked like it would fit.
Yeah, and I also don't think you need to have any finishing on the interior walls.
Okay.
I mean, I think you
But
just
if you
need to
have
stud the walls up, and it's just for storage. That's my opinion.
All right.
I must commend him for having the foresight to put in a conduit from the new building.
Yeah, that was great.
Yep.
Under the concrete or tar.
Yeah.
So it's ready to go for electricity.
Yep.
Okay.
So what's the next step on this, Matt?
I've just kept coming up with a list of what it is going to, what the building is going to, in what's involved in it as far as the structure, basically what I just reviewed,
Right.
but put it down on paper and get it to you.
Okay,
He's waiting for some quotes from an electrician.
you're waiting for the electrician.
Yeah, electrician.
Yep.
Anything on the fire station building?
No, I have, I've done some work on it, but I'm a bit behind on it, and we'll be, working on that more diligently.
So I've got something that's somewhat related to the firehouse.
Mhm.
I reached out to Congressman Welch's office to ask about whether there was any
Funding?
well, it started with a discussion about whether there was any relief for the USDA loan that we have for the wastewater facility, given the feedback that we were getting on the sewer fees this year and COVID-19. And I heard back from one of his staff, and then she put me in touch with a gentleman called named Eric Law, who works at USDA. And I had a conversation with him. And so he said that the only thing that they have to offer is that you can apply for up to a 1-year deferment on your payments, your loan payments, but that the interest clock continues to tick. So it's sort of like it's sort of like an extension on your credit limit on your credit card.
Right.
So
About the miles.
I didn't, that is an option. And if we got to a position where we needed to avail ourselves of that's available. We also talked about other options like potentially, reducing the interest rate with essentially a refinance. But he looked at the rate that we were paying and what they had currently to offer, and we weren't going to do any better there. But he did say that potentially the USDA has got grant money and certainly loan money, but he did indicate grant money that might be able to be used for a fire station.
Oh.
I just wanted the group to be aware that there may be some grant funding possibilities out there for a fire station, which we hadn't heard about previously. And he indicated that the best thing to do is to get the project to a point where it's essentially shovel ready. And that because then you're going to be first in line for any funds that are available. So
Just to be clear, this is a grant, not a loan?
that was my understanding, that he was saying there may be grant funds available for a project like that. So I just wanted to share that with the group.
Good.
All right.
Is there other business?
Yeah, I have, related to the fire station, I have a couple of sort of, I don't know whether it's gossip items, I guess. So I heard at the old people's breakfast on Wednesday morning, someone made the comment that their fire stations now have to be constructed so that trucks can pull into either end of the bay. In other words, a door at the back and a door at the front. I don't know if that's true, and I assume that you dealt with that with the architects or with the prefab building people, but I
Yeah, I
just
haven't heard,
throw
I
that
haven't
out.
heard that one.
We heard that.
I don't even know if it's true, but it's something you might want to keep in mind.
I know
So this would be a brand new requirement?
No, we have heard that before, and for some,
I've never heard it.
I did.
I've never
I
heard it.
remember hearing it from, is it John Vissers? Told you that?
No, Ron told me that.
Ron.
Yeah.
I know it where Ron is from, it is required, but I'm not sure that it's
Yeah,
required.
he seemed to think it was required in Vermont, so that it was a federal requirement, but I pass it on for what it's worth.
All right.
I guess 99% of the fire departments in the state of Vermont are not complying.
Oh, Grafton certainly isn't. The one we were looking at is a model for ours.
Right.
There's no way you can pull in except for one side.
Well, this would be a requirement that would apply to new construction, not necessarily old. And the second is, Guy had mentioned to me that one of his neighbors, and I don't have a name, so this is anonymous, who is on the Rockingham squad, said that Saxtons River turnout has been low. There haven't been as many people at the turnouts recently. I don't know what that means, but some concern that maybe the department wasn't as well supported by the community as it might have been. So I'll throw that out if that is something that,
What do you mean by turnout?
number of people showing up at a call,
Oh, okay. Okay,
number of volunteers showing up for a call.
okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, I hadn't heard that, and I haven't asked about it because I hate to spread rumors like that. But I thought I would bring it up as something that we might need to be cognizant of anyway. For example, if the volunteer fire department's not able to field volunteers, then we need to think twice about building a station.
Hmm.
On the other hand, if we built a station, we might field more volunteers.
Yeah.
And I don't
Right.
know what the reason would be. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
we're all like
Sign of the times.
fighting fires.
Yeah.
Louise, should we invite, I'm so ignorant about this. Should we invite the head of the volunteer firemen to come and just update us on what's going on?
You mean the chief?
If it's chief, sure.
Well, we could.
I was really wowed by the way you got VA at the last meeting. That was so informative for me. Just the precautions, the what they're doing, and making all of us better informed about something that's happening right in the village.
And that was their initiative.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
You went for it, so more power to you. But I just wonder if this is even a subterranean issue, maybe if we have time, 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes at another board meeting.
Okay.
I don't know. I know it's a lot to ask of volunteers, but
Okay.
Well, I think it might be a good idea if we're looking on moving forward with the fire station to just have a perspective of what the department is about and
What
to
is
sell it to the community, if nothing else.
now? There is a memo of understanding about the training that they're going to be so that they're going to all the departments will train together and they'll take turns. So they have
Right.
we haven't been given the memo, but the fire departments, I guess, have signed it. So
could we invite them?
yeah, we have a chat with the chief next time.
Who is the chief, Louise?
Art Smith, your neighbor.
Good to know.
Yeah. I also, it occurs to me that and what we were talking about income, that we don't have any idea the rate of return of the tax bills and the sewer fees. We don't know if we're on target or if there are serious lags in payments. I think we need to get that from Alec, because we could be caught, at the end of the year.
Louise, when you extend the invitation to Chief Art Smith,
Yeah.
I think please open that invitation up to any other members of the volunteer fire squad.
Okay.
That because
And also the fast squad.
and also the fast squad. I mean, they do a great job. They donate their time to the village, and I think most people very much appreciate what they do, and they need to feel that way.
Right. Okay.
So exactly how are you going to be phrasing this invitation?
Gee, you're pinning me down. I'm going to say, Chief Smith, we would like you and any of your volunteers who'd like to join our Zoom meeting next time. And I will specifically invite Walter Kiesick and Nick Cushman, and let them spread the word.
I'm happy to be the excuse. We have a new trustee.
We don't need an excuse.
Well, are we inviting them to just talk to us about the squad, or?
We're inviting them to share their needs and any updates, anything, just a chat.
Okay, just a general chat, and not, we think there might be a problem.
No.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
No. They'll probably bring it up themselves.
Okay.
Anything else? Any other business? Okay, so we decided to meet on the 28th, is that correct? Okay. I guess I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. No.
Aye.
Goodbye.